and now you're transitioning to a different job. You're moving on to Hastings High School. Coach Creech, who we both played for, he did a great job while he was there, creating that energy, having some success. They made the state tournament this year, which I believe was the first time in 20 years.
Yep.
And then just to share now with the head high school coach at Hastings High, I can remember the last time they made the state tournament. They played Lexington at UNK. My grandpa took me over there. Mike Etzemiller, Andy Williams, Aaron Williams, Jed Couts, Greg Barron. I can still name the roster.
Gotcha.
Mike Etzemiller hits 2 free throws as time expires to send him to the state tournament. So there's just a little bit of Hastings High history. And when they made it this year, I was thrilled for Coach Creech, because I know it's been a long time coming, and the Hastings community really values good basketball, and they love to see their teams do well. So as you transition into this new role, what are you most looking forward to with taking over the program and kind of putting your Coach Danielson mark on the program and on the community?
Yeah. Back to that story to kind of tie it in full circle. The first round they beat York that year, and I was sitting right in the first row, because that was a big deal for York. We haven't been in the state tournament in a while as well, and so being there and watching that, and I remember watching Ed Miller play, and the kid was a stud, and that's fun to kind of come full circle with that. But as far as taking over, obviously, I told myself in Cozad I wasn't going to leave until obviously that program was in the right place, but also I wasn't going to leave and just go somewhere to go somewhere. It was going to make sense for me. I was going to be able to understand what was there, have the coaching staff, already in place where it wouldn't take as long as it did here in Cozad to get going. And so that was a big thing for me, having a couple college teammates, on staff already at Hastings High, being able to add my own additions freely, and to be able to create the staff that I know that we have to be successful, and to do that was a big step. And so really for the community taking over, 59 times Hastings High boys basketball has been to the state tournament. There is not a school in the state of Nebraska that has been to the state boys basketball tournament more than Hastings High. And a lot of people don't know that, because a lot of it was in the 20s, 30s, 40s, where, a lot of people don't know that. But, so you're taking over a program where you have that tradition, you have that history. We just mentioned some of the great players that have been through that. You have that winning culture that was put in place there, and a system and a foundation that worked at Hastings High for a long time. Then you kind of transition to the last 20, 25 years, where you've only been to the state tournament. Last year was once, and I think one time in 2000s, so maybe twice in 20, 25 years. And why is that? And that's part of that understanding the culture piece of it. And obviously knowing Coach Creech and understanding what he did the last couple of years, it's in a good spot to kind of take over. And I think, what I can bring is be successful, building those relationships, getting into the community, and really, tapping into those community leaders. There's a lot of talent in Central Nebraska as far as boys basketball. You know that from growing up there. And I think, being able to, like we just talked about, create that social media presence, create that youth program, your resources haven't been tapped into a whole lot at Hastings High. And I think we do that. We create a youth program. We treat kids right. We get coaching staff that I feel like we need to get in there. It's going to take off, and it's going to be a lot quicker process than I think we went through at Cozad.
Just another little fun fact: the guy behind me on the picture, Tom Osborne, not a bad addition, or not a bad person to come through Hastings High graduate. Coach Danielson, what does success look like for you as you move into this new role?
Yeah, success has always been to me, as I stand on the sidelines, as I sit in the stands and watch basketball, watch on TV. It's always been 5 guys playing unselfishly, sharing the basketball, playing for and with each other. That's always been the ultimate success for me. Some of our great teams we had at Cozad didn't care who scored. didn't care who got the rebound, didn't care who hit the game-winning shot, but they played for each other and they played hard because they had COSAD on their chest. In high school, it's very, very difficult to create a program of success where you win year in and year out. You just don't have your pick of kids. And so, to create a program on winning championships and winning in general games is very hard to do. And so success for me has always been, let's find 5 guys that are going to play the game the right way. They're going to play for each other, play with each other, and play the game extremely, extremely hard.
That's awesome. I think you hit on a lot of things that I think are very valuable for kids to learn through the game of basketball that can take them into life and that can help them out while they are on their journey to whatever it is that they're going to get into, college and then into their professions. And I think that's something as a teacher and a coach, we're trying to do. We're trying to help these kids get better through the game so they're able to be successful when they get out into the real world and into a job.
Perfect.
Just a couple.
A perfect example of that is last night on Last Dance, episode 4,
Mhm.
when they were talking about the transition from Doug Collins to Phil Jackson. Doug Collins was, I'm going to get the ball to MJ and he's going to score it. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, Phil Collins comes in, I'm going to put this triangle on offense. I'm going to make you better and everybody around you better. And then, in fact, he changed, Jordan's life because it helped him
Mhm.
understand and win championships. And that's what you're saying.
And that's something, Coach, I learned from Coach Altman working for him
And
at
that's
the
your
University of
sport.
Oregon. I mean, he's a big believer on trust your teammates, make simple plays for your teammates, because it makes everybody better. Their slogan there is sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. Well, who have you learned from that you believe other coaches should learn from?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to just coaches that I've been under, um, coaches that I've learned from. Spencer Peterson was at Elkhorn. Brian Davis was at COSAD before I got there. Coach Creech, obviously at Hastings College. Dan Malik at York High School. Steven Sauter at York. Doug Golds, Mike Hersberg, Brian Delmont. All of the guys that I've coached with and been under, learned a lot from. Matt Kern, who's the York girls coach here at York. Just some different resources that I've used. Jeff Jansen, what he does with culture, he creates a lot of workbooks. He's got the book How to Create a Championship Culture, how to hold your teammates accountable, how to develop leaders in your program. And it's a workbook where you can work with your team when your players, all the way through doing that. He's a great resource. John Gordon has unbelievable stuff on being positive and building positive energy and building that positive culture that you want in your program. I've had the opportunity to be involved with Key 5 coaching, Point Guard College, PZSU basketball last couple of years. They have a lot of great resources. Rick Torbett at Better Basketball. We run read and react offense, 4 out, 5 out, being able to be positionless basketball. That offense was designed by him. And so different resources that I've learned through the years. I think what makes it great, like all coaches, nothing that we design is ours. The best coaches steal it from different people, but being able to fit it to your program, I think, is probably the most important thing as far as when you're taking things from different resources and asking different people. I'll never forget my first coaches clinic when I was a head coach. I think it was a GICC coaches clinic with Tino. Put that together, and I had my notepad, and I went and sat there. I think it was 2 or 3 hours long, and I wrote down every single word that those coaches said. Somebody presented on, I think it was the house defense at one point, where you're building that house on your triangle and nobody gets in it, and you're pushing them to the corner. And we ran that my first year. This is the best thing ever. Well, it wasn't, but I thought, sitting there as a coach, and God, we're going to do that. We're going to run this offense, and this play is the best set play that we're ever going to see. It's not about that, but I'll never forget that. My first coaches clinic, being able to do that and learn.
Staying on this topic of learning, what 2 or 3 books, podcasts, do you continually go back to, or just books in general that have been very monumental in your development as a coach?
Yeah. So actually, I don't do a whole lot of podcasts, but Audible, the Audible app, which is basically just a book on tape. I do, in the mornings, get up and work out and listen to some books on tape. Like I said, Jeff Jansen, How to Build a Championship Culture. He gives you 7 steps for that. Is a great resource. The John Gordon, anything that he spits out is good. One that I just got done with the last couple of days is Alan Stein's Raise Your Game, which is a great resource, focusing more on you as a person and a coach, to develop and make sure that you're being able to be there for your kids, is a great resource. Any of those are great. Like I said, the Audible app is great. Any resources online for better basketball, Key 5 coaching, all that stuff is really good stuff to look at.
I got to ask, have you ever read the book Legacy by James Kerr?
I've heard of it. No.
You got to read that one. That's I think that's one that you'd really like. It's a story about the All Blacks. What's that?
Legacy is what it's called.
Yep,
Legacy.
by James Kerr. It's about a rugby team in New Zealand. It's got a lot of really powerful stuff, a lot of really powerful stories about their culture.
Yeah.
I know you'd like it, so you got to check that one out. Last thing, I'm curious, what have you learned in the last 4 years as being a head coach, being a young head coach, that you wish you would have known when you started?
Yeah, a lot. A lot. I think, and this is why I always tell, obviously I'm not that old, but I always tell coaches that are younger than me, until you're a head coach, you don't know what to expect. So as fast as you can get to be a head coach, in my eyes, is the best as far as high school. If it's taking over a girls program your first year, do that, because you're a head coach. You got a seat at the table now. You can start talking like head coaches talk. But I think the biggest thing that I've probably learned is the less that you worry about winning, the more winning that's probably going to happen. Like I said, my first year, I had about 30 set plays that we ran that I thought were just, nobody's going to stop these. This is the best set play. And it really doesn't come down to that. The more that you spend on your culture and less on X's and O's, the more you're going to win. Which sounds different and crazy, especially as being as competitive as I am. We want to win. So let's focus on winning. I'm a winner. Everything you do is about winning, win. And that becomes tangible, and it's just not realistic. And the things that matter are building that culture. You build, the culture is always going to be more important than the X's and O's. And there's nothing more successful than a winning culture. And I think back to that coaches clinic story, there's been a lot of great coaches that have designed a lot of good offenses and a lot of good defenses. You can win a championship playing a 2-3 zone, a 1-3-1, man defense, press, match up 2-3, whatever you want to do. You can win championships playing whatever. On offense, you can play with a 5-out system. You can win with a 3-out, 2-in. There's lots and lots of different systems and strategies out there that you can win with. But probably most important thing that I've learned is the teaching of that system. How are you going to get that system to run the way you want it to run? If I'm running a 5-out read and react, which is a system that we run, how are you going to teach your basket cuts? How are you going to teach your front cuts, your rear cuts, your post ups, your lobs? Those things are going to be more important than, like I said, going to a coach's clinic and listening to this continuity ball screen offense and saying, well, that's going to work for me. Because then it becomes down your players and how you're running things, not necessarily what you're running.
You bring up a lot of great points there. And one thing that you said that, you can win doing a lot of different things, but one thing that I've learned that I think can add to what you just said is that, you got to coach to your personnel. You see a lot of coaches who, they're going to run 3-out, 2-in, whether they got two posts, one post, or no post. So you got to, with that offense, you got to coach to your personnel. And the other thing that I've observed at all levels, the team that plays the hardest and the team that plays the smartest generally wins the game. I mean, you can really simplify what you do. If you can build that culture where that your guys are going to play as hard as they can every time they step on the floor, you're going to win a lot of games. So a lot of really great things there. And Coach Danielson, we really appreciate you coming on. I love this conversation. I learned a lot. I hope other people who tune in and watch this learn a lot as well. And I'm gonna get in touch with everybody to make sure that they know how to get in contact with you if they have any further questions. And really, really, thank you very much for taking time to share your chalk.